Brave New Miuccia, the Brave New Miuccia.
Fashion is one of the few multi-billion-dollar industries that elevates and celebrates a singular genius, the designer or creative director, as a savior and visionary who will create both new art and bring the brand a lot of money. And we've seen this so many times before. Tom Ford at Gucci, Eddie Salmon at Saint Laurent. However, what if this doesn't work as it may have in the past? What if we see fashion brands start taking major losses, hiring these designers for millions of dollars, but not seeing those returns in investment? Will huge brands start making safer choices? And instead of putting a creative genius in, they'll put out whatever will make them money. That could very well be the future, and it's why I'm asking, will Raf Simons fail at Prada? So, the rumors were true. Fashion's darling, the Euro raver himself, Raf Simons, is being appointed, or has been appointed, as the co-creative director of Prada. We'll be working side by side with the veteran herself, Miuccia Prada. So this is very interesting news, and there's a couple of things I would like to point out. For one, I think that Raf has kind of a design language that fits well with Prada's brand. I think that even if you look at his most recent runway, the one where the guys are like this, they have the thing like this, you can see a lot of similarities. Raf pays attention, kind of sleekness of tailoring, kind of a sophistication that it verges on the side of kind of rebelliousness that I think Prada and Raf have been playing along with for a while. So I think he'll do well in terms of being a good fit for Prada, but I'm curious about whether or not he will make the brand any more money. Does Prada need a new creative director? Miuccia Prada is, the classically trained mime and multi-billionaire, is in her 70s and at some point will have to retire. And passing it on to Raf Simons, presumably, would be a strong choice. Raf is highly celebrated. He is a designer who has pushed the boundaries for menswear and has proven his chops creating women's wear. And so it would be natural that Prada would want somebody who is so revered and celebrated as their creative director if Miuccia decides to leave. But the other thing I want to ask is, do they need it right now, this moment? I think, personally, I found Prada's last collections to be exciting, interesting, engaging. Whether it was their most recent menswear one, it's kind of playing in a post-streetwear world, which I think is relevant and interesting. And the kind of revitalization of the Prada sport has been very, very poignant, very cool. And it just felt like Prada really needed to kind of bring that kind of 90s vibes into the brand. So I think Miuccia and her team have already been doing a good job. So I'm very curious if Raf is going to actually inject something new that Prada is missing. If it's not broke, why are you trying to fix it? Why are you trying to fix it, dude? Will Raf be a moneymaker for Prada? They are doing well as a brand. They continue to sell. They have strong accessories, which I mentioned in the past is super important, and Prada has excelled at that. And in addition to that, Prada has been able to sell out its ready-to-wear, which is kind of a big achievement. We're talking about really expensive garments, and typically ready-to-wear it's something that people will desire, and they'll be kind of desirable pieces, but in a lot of ways, it's kind of the place settings for the accessories. But Prada has succeeded in creating their camp shirts, which were super desirable, and those pieces have been selling out. Will Raf be able to bring in new designs, new looks, new ideas that have a similar effect and help push Prada even further than it already is? His brand, Raf Simons, has always kind of stayed small and niche. While his tenure at Jill Sander was super successful in terms of not only just being very creative and interesting, but being very lucrative He kind of revitalized that brand, and he also introduced Jill Sander Navy, the diffusion brand, which was a very lucrative move for Jill Sander. But on the flip side, we've got his tenure at Calvin Klein, the place he just left from. Tragically, despite the fact his collections were awesome, he influenced high fashion. He brought life back to New York Fashion Week. It was on its deathbed. Raf started doing CPR on New York Fashion Week, and then they pulled him away, so now it's in cardiac arrest, I guess. So he did create something really cool at Calvin Klein, but he basically spent a lot of money trying to create these elaborate shows, trying to kind of imbue this like high mind art fashion into a mainstream brand. Hold on. A point that Bliss Foster made in his video when the rumors were circulating about Raf and Prada was that the difference between Prada and Calvin Klein is the user base, the buyers. Basically, while Calvin Klein did have Calvin Klein collection, the runway, it is primarily a mass market brand. And the people who buy Calvin Klein a lot of the times are people shopping at the mall who aren't interested in high fashion. So Raf kind of had to introduce all of these buyers at market to take on the brands and start stocking it in places like Dover Street or wherever. And he also had to introduce people who buy high fashion that this is the new look, this is the aesthetic. Calvin Klein is a cool high fashion brand again. So that's kind of an uphill battle. With Prada, it's not the same thing. Prada doesn't have a diffusion line. Miu Miu isn't really a diffusion line, it's a different, younger type of brand. They are always and forever high fashion, so the people who already shop at Prada will probably be at least receptive to what Raf Simons might introduce to the label. The third thing that I think is kind of interesting, a detail that might influence, is the idea of co-creative directors. Off the top of my dome, the only other big fashion house that I know that has this is Jill Sander with Luke and Lucy Mayer. They are, of course, a couple. They are married to each other. So kind of a collaboration seems a little more natural from them because they're a unit. How will Miuccia and Raf collaborate together? Raf being a Belgian country boy who fell in love with the big city and the rave scene, and Miuccia, an Italian billionaire who spent years getting her doctorate in political science, only to then spend 5 years studying to be a mime, and spent time representing the Italian Communist Party, where she once told Vogue that she would be handing out pamphlets in fine jewelry and a Saint Laurent suit, only to eventually finally find her way to being the creative director of Prada. So they come from different places in the world, and I am curious how they will collaborate and what that will actually function like. Naturally, if you're a creative director of a huge brand like both Miuccia and Raf have been and are, you are somebody who is adept at collaborating, at working with hundreds of different people, working with pattern makers, and kind of figuring every detail out, because you can't draw everything, sew everything, create everything. You have to be a master at working as a team. So perhaps one team leader and another team leader can come together and work in a succinct and natural way. Whether or not, basically, Miuccia, who's older and different, is going to butt heads with Raf if he says something like, I don't know, like the shirt should say drugs on it, or, we should be referencing Middle America more. So it's left to be kind of discovered. It's gonna happen. I think this is gonna happen. Raf is already building hype about being entered into Prada. People are gonna get excited. Buyers are gonna get excited. Everyone's gonna be at the runway show when it happens, and people are gonna write and talk about it because it's Raf, because he's like a fashion celebrity. And regardless of how it goes down, what we see, I think people are gonna start buying it a little more. So I think definitely the first collections, we're going to see an increase in interest, and an increase in Prada sales. But unless they're able to introduce something compelling, unique, new, and is needed for Prada, I think that ultimately all it's gonna be is Prada is now paying another guy to help Miuccia, but they're paying him like millions of dollars, so who knows if it was even worth it. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Are you stoked to the max about Raf being at Prada? Or are you kind of lukewarm about it? Or do you think he's only gonna create trash and bring the brand down? So let me know in the comments below, and only time will tell. We will see in 2021 what Raf cooks up. So stay tuned, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. And I post videos this month. I'm trying to post videos every Wednesday and Sunday. So subscribe, hit the bell thing, do all the stuff you're supposed to do. Follow me on Instagram, high-five me in the street, find me, try to like hack me and find my address and like break into my house. I'm joking, but I'll catch you guys later. See you next time.